pumpkin spice spam.
No, don't tell me that.
Pumpkin spice Cheerios. Oh no. This reminds me of the hot
I even want to know?
chewing gum. Pumpkin spice gum.
Ew.
Yeah. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Need to Know. I'm your host Gemma Stafford, professional chef, cookbook author and the creator of Bigger, Bolder Baking. And as always, I'm joined by my lovely co-host Ami Shukla, who is the sprinkle of cinnamon on top of my pumpkin spice latte. Do you like that?
I do.
I just gave myself a segue. I gave myself a segue and I gave you a compliment.
Yeah. I'm glad I wasn't the pumpkin spice.
I'm not going to tell you my feelings about pumpkin spice. No, I'm messing. I do like pumpkin spice. How you doing?
I'm good. How was, you just came back from Ireland.
I did.
How was it?
It was lovely.
Yeah?
I'm going to say a very Irish thing now, and it didn't rain one day. We always talk about the weather. Like, you know, in LA, you always talk about how you got somewhere and which highway you took. In Ireland, the first thing they'll ask you is, how was the weather? Even like if you're there or if you're not there, or they'll ask you how the weather is where you are.
Yeah. Wait, so it didn't rain at all?
No, it rained one day, sprinkled on the way back up to the airport. We were very fortunate.
Oh. Did you miss it though? Because we never get rain in LA. Was it like, oh, it'd be fun to have a rainy day?
No, yeah, I'll tell you what, it was lovely that there was some respite from the heat because it wasn't 90 degrees. It was beautiful. It was breezy. We went down to the water. It was cool but sunny. It wasn't hot.
Yeah.
So it's lovely.
Yeah.
It's like a springtime in LA is what the weather was like.
Oh, you know, I know what I want to ask you about Ireland. So are there things like, would you go back there and like think, oh, I just want to eat this one thing that I just never get to eat unless I mean, I know you could make whatever, but
yeah.
Is there
there is for sure. Do you know what I love? And I do hear this a lot is sausages, Irish sausages. Mm-hmm. People always say they miss the sausages in Ireland, no matter where they are in the world. Also, but I've said this many, many times, is sausage rolls. Which is a sausage wrapped in pastry.
Yeah.
And those things. And then do you know what else? There's a few things, but you know what else I love to have is smoked salmon. Atlantic
really?
Smoked salmon. Yeah.
Oh, I never thought of that as a
really, yummy.
thing.
And then we have Atlantic prawns. They're delicious. Do you not follow me on Instagram, Ami? I shared all of this.
I do follow you. I do. Do you post it in stories?
Yes, always stories.
I never look at stories. I always forget to look at stories.
I do stories, yeah. I just find it easy.
Yeah, I have a friend who just spent the whole summer in Sweden. And I was like, how was your summer? And she was like, what? Didn't you look at my stories? I was like, I didn't look at a single one of your stories. You just have to tell me what you did.
Yeah, I like stories. I watch a lot of people's stories. I just find them easier to digest. I enjoy them. I think they're kind of more of a fly on the wall look. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I did a lot of stories.
Yeah.
So whenever you have time, Ami, your busy schedule, please go back
and have a look. Scroll. Yeah, I'll tell that to my daughter next time. What are you doing on Instagram? Gemma told me I had to.
It's homework.
Yeah, exactly.
How was your summer? I was about to move on. How was your summer?
Oh, it was pretty mellow. We didn't do a whole lot. We do a lot of things. You know, when we don't do a lot of major traveling, we do these I Love LA days.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we found a wonderful night market right in Los Feliz. I tried tongolu for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what that is?
We talked about it.
Yeah, it's like this, it's like fruit. It's Chinese. It's this fruit on a stick. You can see it all over TikTok and stuff. People make it. It's like fresh fruit on a stick that's dipped in caramel. Like just a plain like sugar caramel.
Yeah.
Like, so not soft. So, and then it dries crunchy. And it doesn't last very long. Like I think if you make it at home, you have to kind of eat it as soon as the caramel is cool enough to eat. And then it's very messy and very delicious. It's like, so we had it in like, I could tell that the grapes were not necessarily the freshest grapes. Like, you know, like they were like, but they were like so juicy and the outside was really crunchy. So you'd like crunch into this caramel and then you'd have this like explosion of like juicy grapes or strawberries or whatever. It was really good.
I remember we were in a shopping mall somewhere, Kevin and I can't remember where we were in the world even, because, you know, we go to very fancy places. And Glendale, we were in Glendale in West LA.
Wait, no, in East, on the East side.
On the east side of LA.
In my hood.
That's where it was. I knew it was an American shopping mall. And they had that, and
they had tongolu there.
They did.
Oh, yeah.
That's close to you.
Yeah, Glendale's not far from me.
But my one thing, just with my experience of caramel, is it had to have been a thin layer, right, to be enjoyable.
Yes, yeah, because you have to be able to. You have to cut into it. You have to be able to bite into it without breaking your teeth.
Okay, I am pleasantly surprised to find out that you liked that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I might try it now.
Oh, it was so good. I loved it. I have to say, I did also try I went to a stand. I know we talked about this, Dubai chocolate strawberries, and we made it here. Then I went to a stand and had it. And I have to say, I think the Tungaloo won out for me, even though it's less of a thing than the Dubai chocolate strawberry.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you had a fun summer, Ami.
I did. It's fun to get to know the city you live in, and so, we did some good eating. We did some good, exploring.
That's always a good vacation or staycation or whatever you're doing.
Well, yeah. People come to LA to visit. So we're like, well, what would we do if we were a tourist here?
Yeah. So, we're going to move right along to Hot from the Oven. Today is something that you know a lot about in your household because you have a 15-year-old.
16 now.
16?
Oh, no, not yet. Friday.
Yeah. There was a big recent engagement of music royalty. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce got engaged not that long ago.
Of course, I heard, and then I was forced to watch all the Instagram posts. Congratulations to them. They're very cute.
It's exciting. The world did stop there for that moment where, well, it's not for a moment, but for that time that they announced the engagement. And it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And another big deal was the fact that she did her first podcast. And of course, she did it on her fiance, Travis Kelce's podcast, New Heights. And during the podcast, she announced something really interesting. So we know that Taylor does like to cook and bake. And she does what she calls like granny.
Like granny core or something?
Granny, yeah. Like she does like, she uses a different term, but like she does like to do granny's hobbies.
Yeah.
So,
like sewing.
Yeah.
Knitting,
so every 6 months she says she picks up a new hobby. And so one of the hobbies was sewing. So she did that for 6 months and she would like sew little, I think like babies' blankets and things like that, which is like sweet, right? And then she moves on to something else. So I actually like that idea because you pick up something new. 6 months is a long enough time to do something and then move on to something else. So you have a lot of little hobbies in your arsenal to go back to. So we do know that she likes to bake because of the chai cookie, the cookies that came out. It was actually 2009 that those came out.
Oh, wow.
So she made those. I know, crazy, right? Now her big thing that she announced on the podcast is sourdough baking.
Oh, woman after your own heart.
Sourdough baking, I know, right? She's definitely like more evolved, like maybe even for me. Like I was just reading some of the flavors that she's doing. And when it comes to my sourdough, I kind of keep it simple. Like I'll do different types of bread. I'll do sourdough focaccia, I'll do sourdough muffins, I'll do sourdough loaf. But she's doing things that can be a little bit harder, like a sourdough cinnamon swirl loaf, a blueberry lemon loaf. She's also doing like a funfetti sourdough loaf, which I haven't tried yet. So like really fun, really creative. And she's saying that, and I think anybody who got into sourdough, especially during COVID, a lot of your, once you get into something big like that, the majority of your conversation, she said 60% of her conversations are about sourdough bread, which I get it. Like once you start into something like that, it's such a big world. Yeah. There's so much to talk about.
Sure.
And because of COVID, when we all started making sourdough starters and sourdough bread, you nearly always will throw a stone, you'll meet somebody who has an experience with sourdough.
Absolutely. I think that's so fun. I also love that, like what an accomplished musician and artist, and then, like kind of getting back to these like wonderful basics, that are like so homey and delicious. And what a treat if Taylor Swift were to send you a loaf of her bread.
And she does send it to her friends. She sent it to Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco, and she did this like lovely box. It was curated and it had her loaf in it, and then like I think an olive oil and some other little lovely things.
Yeah,
it was very sweet.
Yeah,
but I get it because we all have to have our winding down thing, and she started doing this after her Eras tour, and I'm guessing kind of a way to just completely probably enter a world that was so different to what she had come from. So, and we all know baking to be like relaxing and soothing and something you can just kind of like you can just delve deep into and just get lost for days. And the world of sourdough, there's like so much to get involved in.
And it's also fun to be able to like I know what it feels like when you're obsessed with some project that you're trying to do in the kitchen and you want to talk about it. So I totally understand wanting to like have, having 60% of your conversations be all about this. A little bit of trivia for you. Which TV series features 13 Taylor Swift songs to date?
I don't know.
The Summer I Turned Pretty.
You're going to have to fill me in on that.
Yeah, you like that segue here? Because I want to tell you.
You just set yourself up there. This is how good we are at doing segues. We've got to give ourselves our own. Okay, enlighten me.
Speaking of the summer I turned
This is what you did this summer, right?
Yeah, what I did this summer was I spent when I was not looking at your stories on Instagram, I was looking at...
Because we know you weren't. You got caught out on that one, Ami.
No, because I was looking at all of the memes about Jeremiah's dream wedding cake. Now, do you know anything about this?
Oh, I don't. You're like just give me the what's it called? The boilerplate.
The boilerplate is that this is like a love. It's like a love triangle story about this girl Belly and these two boys Conrad and Jeremiah who grow up together. Their moms are best friends. They like have a summer house that they all spend time together every summer. They grow up. One summer she shows up, without her braces and her glasses, and suddenly, one boy's in love with her, then the next one's in love with her, and it kind of goes back and forth.
She's All That, like that, right? Isn't it? She's All That from the 90s?
Oh, I never saw that. I don't know.
Not?
Is it
Freddie Prinze Jr.? I don't know who the girl was, but like she wore glasses, and then they did a remake. They took off the glasses.
They do a 90s montage.
They did. They did a 90s montage. They fixed her hair, and then she was gorgeous.
I love it.
Turns out it was just the glasses.
We missed the montage. I think the show should have done the montage. But so in the current season, Jeremiah, sorry, I can't stop laughing. You've got to see some of these memes. They're so funny. They're in, like, one is fresh out of college. The Belly, the girl's still in college. They decide to get married. And they have no money because they're, they don't have jobs. They have a very tight budget. And so she goes to this bakery because Jeremiah was like, we all get one thing. And my one thing is a dark chocolate cake with a raspberry coulis filling and a dark chocolate mirror glaze. And it turns out that this 2-tier wedding cake is like $750 because they do this wedding.
Jeremiah wanted this cake.
Jeremiah wanted this cake. And so, and Belly says, well, we can't afford that. $750 is not in our budget. How about milk chocolate cupcakes? And then, then he does the thing that you see. He calls her on the phone. He's like, I can't even do it. It's like the cake is, the chocolate is about the bean, and it's about the 70% chocolate and the sweet tartness of the raspberries and the dark chocolate. And anyway, so now the internet has gone wild, like on TikTok, YouTube. People are like, look, I made Belly's $750 cake for $45. Or look, it's all these people attempting to make this cake. Bakeries, there's brides.com, I think, did a whole article about this. About how, like, basically, like...
So there's not a lot going on this summer, huh?
It is really, you know what? It has been a huge source of entertainment for me. And my daughter's birthday is coming up. And,
Are you going to do it?
Well, here's the thing is that when there's all these, there's Lambeth cakes are really popular right now too. So people are saying, oh, well, if Belly was with Conrad, this would be the cake. And then people are showing these like gorgeous Lambeth cakes. Mm-hmm. So I said to Lila, okay, for your birthday, she said she wanted a Lambeth cake. She wanted me to do this whole thing with like vintage frosting. I said, that's fine. I said, or I could make you Jeremiah's dark chocolate cake with raspberry coulis and a chocolate mirror glaze. And now she can't decide what she wants. And, I'm like, it's a few days from now, so you got to figure it out.
You know what your meme should be?
What?
Amy Poehler's, where she, in Mean Girls, where she says, I'm not a regular mom, I'm a cool mom. Yeah. That should be your meme. Because you're going to make that cake. And you're up on current events.
I really want to make Jeremiah's cake. I think it would crack everybody up.
I think you should.
Well, I will post about it if I do.
I'll make sure not to look at that.
I'm not doing it on my stories. Okay, speaking of other things that I absolutely
I'm glad
love.
we find ourselves so funny. Or at least I find myself funny. Go ahead. Sorry, go on.
Well, okay, now it's time for In the Mix. Mm-hmm. Unless you want to talk more about Jeremiah's dark chocolate.
No, I'm
wedding
good.
cake.
I'm ready to move on.
So we're going to talk about pumpkin spice. Because, Gemma, it's that time of year.
Sure is.
Oh, my gosh.
My favorite time.
Have you been to Starbucks lately?
Yes.
Do you know that on August 26th, they have already dropped their pumpkin spice latte?
No.
For the fall. So they got started early. And people like my daughter, because this episode is going to be all about my daughter. Happy birthday, Lila. She was over the moon. She was so excited. She went with all her friends to the first day.
Stop, are you serious?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they got their pumpkin spice lattes. They took photos of it. They were so excited. You know, I think it'd just be interesting to dive into why people love pumpkin spice so much. It's just like this visceral first sign of fall, this flavor that people look forward to. And I get to witness this deep emotional journey that she is now on. But it's actually, there's a lot of science behind pumpkin spice. Did you know about this?
I mean, I know from a personal experience with the taste and like how I link so close. Like some of my fondest memories are linked to like memories of like tasting something and like desserts that I grew up with and things like that.
Like with pumpkin spice. Like, so, well, so a McCormick, the spice company. So they did a survey and apparently so pumpkin spice is more than 70% of respondents say that they use pumpkin pie spice at least once a week during peak season.
I would say we do that.
Do you? Do we? Do I?
Well, we use it. We definitely use it a lot during July.
Well, we do it for our shoots.
Content.
Yes, yeah.
No,
but in your life outside of Bigger Bolder Baking, do you?
Kevin puts it in oatmeal, I think, and he puts it in some other stuff. And then yes, we do. Actually, it does go into a lot of our holiday baking, especially with the sweet potato, in the sweet potato world, the pumpkin world.
Right. And then so 90% of pumpkin spice sales occur between August and December. So this thing is huge and it's been going on for, I don't know, I feel like a lot longer than Starbucks had their lattes out, it's not like but you see, but it's like, what is pumpkin spice? Let's talk about like, what are the spices that make up pumpkin spice? I know there's cinnamon, nutmeg, clove, allspice. And like, why were these flavors used to flavor pumpkin? So pumpkin itself, as you know, it just doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. It's got, sort of a slightly earthy, a little bit vegetal flavor. It has a little bit of sweetness, but there are these spices, ginger, nutmeg, allspice, that bring out a lot of sort of support those flavors of pumpkin and really add their own, really enhance that whole experience. But I think more so than pumpkin itself, it's that combination of spices that really make people happy.
Yeah.
So the thing about these spices is they're volatile rich spices, which means that they release aromatic compounds that make them intensely flavorful and aromatic. And,
because pumpkin's quite bland.
Yes, exactly. Pumpkin's
it's a nice flavor, but it's very mild.
Yeah, it doesn't taste like much, but it's that. So
it's its seasoning.
Yeah, it's seasoning. And, it's interesting. I mean, I feel like I know this particular fact, but it's interesting to just remember that most of what we refer to as taste is actually smell. According to Dr. John McCann, who's a sensory neuroscientist, he says about 70% of our perception of taste is retronasal smell. And then maybe 25% is remember seeing like when you were growing up, you like
the
talked
tongue
about
thing.
the tongue thing, and there was like salty, bitter, sweet.
Yeah.
Our tongue actually has some pretty basic flavors, and then there's a lot of all that nuance. What we're like perceiving with pumpkin spice is really what we're smelling.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So I think about this, and I think about like, say, I'm going to say like crumble for my mom's crumble. And actually, it's the smell over taste is what's giving us the memory.
It's the smell over the and we're perceiving it as taste, but it's really the smell. And the other interesting thing about smell is it's most of all of our senses. It's the one most closely related to memory.
No way.
Yeah, so
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so like this is like when people have this
those like
love
evoke those emotions
for pumpkin spice, they're smelling it and they have this love because they're thinking about all of these cozy things that happen on the holidays. It gets colder. It's time for family. It's time to put on a big sweater. It's, or whatever that fall, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever that triggers for you.
Yeah.
all of those like cozy memories.
That's lovely. I really like that. And actually that's really interesting that there's actually a sign. It's not just because we love going to Starbucks and throwing down $7 for a latte. It's because it's actually way more scientific and it goes way deeper than that.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is actually why that industry does so well, which I think is like, $1 billion industry or more, is it really, really touches on feeling for people.
Yeah. And I do. And that for me, like people always, here's the funny thing. People ask me, what's your favorite dessert? And over the years, I always kind of felt like, am I giving them a good enough answer? Because they would ask me in interviews or like wherever I was, or even if it was just somebody like that I met, and I always felt like I didn't have a good enough answer. But then I later realized it's an honest answer, and it's the best answer, which is I always tell them my favorite desserts are the ones I used to always say: apple crumble, bread and butter pudding, pavlova, eclairs, chocolate mousse. All of those things I grew up, I was making them or my mom made them. Mm-hmm. Everything is linked to home, and more so also linked to the house I grew up in, which is not the house my mom lives in now. Hands down. Yeah. Those are my favorite. And it's not because of what now I'm learning is actually the smell, but like it's not just the taste. And it was everything. It's everything in that moment. Also, I was a young child. Mm-hmm. I had very little to worry about, right. So it was like, my whole family lived in that house. I grew up in that house, like all of the things. Right. That's really lovely. Yeah. Can I tell you something that I learned because it is this season? This is going to shock you. So the pumpkin spice latte, which is PSL. Oh. Did you know that? No. PSL. It took me a minute. Yeah. I didn't know what
when you say like, hey, you want to go down the street for some PSL? Yeah.
I'd be like, no. No. My mom warned me about people like you. Yeah.
This guy always tell my daughter, like, oh, too much PSL.
Don't do PSL with them. So pumpkin spice is newish enough to me. I've been in the States now 17 years. I'm very familiar with cinnamon, which just an FYI, growing up, I thought was, even though we used it in our baking, was kind of like an American spice to use, even though we do use it in our baking. But I remember like in America, we came here and they put it in apple pie, which we call tart, which we just thought was bananas. Anyway, so in 2003, Starbucks actually did a kind of a soft launch of the PSL in small markets, and it did really well. People, and I often wonder this myself, like, how is this pumpkin? Like, what's pumpkin about this? Like, it is Starbucks, and you see they have all those syrups and the flavors and the dry powders and stuff. And they now make it with a pumpkin syrup, but there is, people wanted some sort of like pumpkin in like written there, not just like not just the flavor of the spices, which I think is what it was. So now they use a pumpkin flavored syrup in their drinks. But get this. So the pumpkin spice latte launched in 2003. As of 2023, they sold 600 million pumpkin spice lattes. Wow. 600 million. With 2 years not accounted for, because now it's 2025. Right. Which I think is insanity.
Have you tried?
I have tried it. Didn't remember we talked about this. So we have one for the website. So we redid our one recently for the website. I do get the appeal. I had it recently. I'm not, when it comes to my drinks, I don't stray from coffee or tea. The wildest I'll get is a chai latte. I'll tell you why. I don't need those kinds of drinks in my life, because I would be like, yes, give me the venti with the cream on top. And is there more stuff? Just throw more stuff on there. Right.
I mean, they are very, very sweet.
Yeah, they are.
My problem is that I always want like a cookie or something sweet with my coffee, so I just opt to have a very plain coffee.
I would too,
so that I can justify having a piece of cake.
That's what I would do.
So it's no fewer, it's just as bad for you. It's just a different form, It's but what I like about on Bigger Bolder Baking, there's a homemade. You can make your own pumpkin spice latte. Yeah, and what I like is that you can, because you're making it homemade, you can adjust the sweet. So that's true. So much better for me, because like I love all those flavors.
And you can change the sugar.
Yeah. So you can change the sugar. You can use monk fruit if you want, if you don't want sugar. Or coconut sugar. But you can also use less of it if you just want, you want those spicy flavors, but you don't want an overly sweet coffee.
Yes, agreed. You know what I have to say? I'm just going to do a little plug here. They still serve it. At one point, I think they took it off the menu, because Starbucks came up with the pumpkin spice latte on the heels of the peppermint mocha doing really well and the eggnog latte. And we've talked about this before. We tried one of those one day, didn't we?
I
had one. Somebody ordered one day and I tried it. And same sweet, a little bit spiced. I get the appeal. Nobody ever talks about salted caramel hot chocolate that they do at Starbucks.
Uh-huh.
It is so delicious.
Oh, really?
It is so yummy. And they do, so it's a Starbucks hot chocolate, but then they do caramel sauce on top, and then they have this jar of sprinkles that's like salty, sweet sprinkles, and then they sprinkle that on top.
See, I feel like that's another thing that
You're literally like, you braced the chair.
Just because like Starbucks, like their drinks lean sweet. Even their unsweetened latte, I don't know how it is, it's sweet. If you just get a latte at Starbucks and then you go into a different coffee shop and get a latte there, that latte will be bitter, and the Starbucks latte is always sweet.
Always sweeter.
And so I think I would do a salted caramel hot chocolate, but I would make it myself so I could have a very dark, bittersweet hot chocolate that I then put caramel swirl on top.
Yeah.
And I think that would be really good. But I don't have a big sweet tooth when it comes to these drinks.
But if you're in the Glendale Mall, just looking for a coffee, which I have been there before at the Starbucks, and it's the holidays, what are you going to get, Ami?
Probably just a latte and a peppermint brownie.
A peppermint brownie. Okay. So, Ami, you said that the pumpkin pie spice is $1 billion industry.
Yes.
I think I know why. So on the market during the holiday season, you can buy pumpkin spice sauce. I'm not sure what that is. Pumpkin spice cream cheese. That makes sense. I wouldn't eat it, but I get it. You get this one. You're going to love this. Pumpkin spice spam.
No, don't tell me that.
Pumpkin spice Cheerios. Pumpkin spice dog treats. Oh, those spices are good for dogs.
That's for the dog.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Pumpkins. Oh, no. This reminds me of the hot
I even want to know?
chewing gum. Pumpkin spice gum.
Ew.
Yeah.
I know. You know what? I just like, what's wrong with
that pumpkin spice latte is looking pretty good right about now, huh?
I love pumpkin bread. I love pumpkin bread. It's like so great. I feel like we should just stop there. Pumpkin bread.
Okay. So tell me this. If we appreciate pumpkin pie spice, what would be your, say a holiday, let's stick with the holiday. What would be your Ami flavor? And don't make it too fancy, Ami. Okay?
No,
like,
it's not fancy.
For the layman.
It's not fancy. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Apples and cinnamon. I am not a pumpkin person, so maybe that's why I'm like, no, pumpkin spice, whatever. I like pumpkin. It's fine. I don't mind it. But apple pie, apple crisp, just the smell of apples and cinnamon, apples dipped in cinnamon and sugar. Like everything about apples for me is fall. It reminds me of apple picking with my family. It reminds me of just eating all these varieties of apples and like taking a hayride in Connecticut to like where we would pick apples. The color, the smell of the leaves, everything about crunching into like a fresh apple.
That's nice.
Is like, to me, like I get emotional about apples. I love them. I love everything about it.
Would you like a moment?
So I'm just poo-poo, pumpkin spice, but apples.
We didn't poo-poo it.
I love apples.
We definitely, I mean, it's $1 billion industry for a reason, and we do enjoy it. I will tell you my thing when it comes to the fall, and this is only in the recent few years, is pears and chocolate.
Oh, that's
and also
nice.
Don't forget about, this is my plea, don't forget about chocolate during the holiday season, because it is always appreciated. It's easy to bake a batch of brownies. Do your chocolate cookie dough, keep it in the freezer, chocolate cake, like whatever it is. Like chocolate is such a fantastic ingredient to use around the holidays because not everybody thinks about it.
Right.
So be that person who shows up with something that everybody loves.
Why not? I'm going to show up with apples. All right, Gemma, I think it is now time for the Bold Baking Hotline.
Lovely.
We are going to do something a little bit different. Instead of questions, we've asked the bigger, bolder baking community about their favorite food scents. What are the kitchen aromas that bring you back to the past and make you feel relaxed or just make you feel hungry? And here's what people had to say. They said cinnamon rolls, mulling spices, sweet potato pie, rum raisin butter tarts, fresh bread, of course, roast beef and onions, and
I get that.
Apple pie.
Oh, this one made the list.
I feel seen.
Did you write that in there?
No.
Are you Ami25 on Facebook? I love that list. And we did ask for personal stories on our Facebook, and I'm going to read this one from Marilyn on Facebook. My mum used to make Seville marmalade in January when the oranges came to Canada. The smell of orange marmalade in January was such a sunny, bright smell, reminding us that winter would end and we had spring to look forward to.
Aww,
Isn't that lovely?
That's so sweet.
That's a really nice story.
I kind of want that memory.
Yeah.
I love that. We've got someone else who wrote in the smell of apple strudel. Every time I smell it, memories of my mom stretching homemade dough across the kitchen table come flooding back.
Isn't that such a nice memory? Because it's the action. It's like, and then also of the homemade dough.
Yeah.
Like, oh, your mom, like, that's
I know.
really cool. Like, whose mom does that?
I love these smells that evoke, like, being at home with your family as a kid. It's really
I feel like
sweet.
George would be like, yeah, I went up at Ralph's with my mom and she bought phyllo dough.
What about you, Gemma? Do you have a food smell?
I do. I have a lot. I've had the ones that I already mentioned. But can I tell you something that it is on the savory side? Because somebody mentioned roast beef there. And I definitely, around roasted meats, get all the feels. Because for Sunday lunch in Ireland, my dad used to man the barbecue when we were growing up. Oh, like he did the barbecue. It was the one food thing he did. He always burnt the sausages. I mean, burnt the sausages. And I don't know whether it is actually the taste or the smell now after learning a lot from you today, but the taste of burnt sausages, which is kind of hard to do, by the way. It's really hard to like char a sausage.
Yeah, no, because they're so greasy. They just kind of keep cooking.
Oh no, it's possible. It's possible. After a few Heinekens, it's real possible. I learned years later. But the taste of burnt sausages reminds me of that time being in the house again that I grew up in the back garden, and my dad barbecuing.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I've got my grandmother used to live with us for a while growing up, and she would make chai. And not the fakey Starbucks chai that isn't actually real chai, but like real tea masala, boiling, and she would, boil the black tea with like equal parts milk and water, and the smell of the boiling tea, and then she would put the sugar and the chai spice in there and strain the whole thing and give me this like little cup, and it was, it just had this like very spicy because there's black pepper in there and very sweet, and every time I smell it, I mean, the very first thing I think of is my grandmother and her hands and her raspy laugh. And she was just tiny. I'm small, but she was like tiny. And if she ever leaned against me, she was like as heavy as a leaf. And I miss her so much. And every time I make myself a cup of chai, I think of her.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, Ami, I'm glad you see why we ended with that and not my dad's burnt sausages. My drunken dad's burnt sausages, we later learned. And on that note, Ami, we're going to wrap up this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed it. And make sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen and watch your podcasts. Take care. From HRN and the Bold Baking Network, you are watching the Need to Know Baking Entertainment podcast.